It's a diary of a seducer, and it's everything I know to be true about women, but cannot share.
I've heard you talk about it in this idea of seduction and the dance of seduction. It's something that you're co-creating.
Yes. Don't go money first, go connection first, go relationship first.
Basically, the idea here is to help men who love women have better experiences with meeting, dating, sex, relationships. What is the most seductive quality of a man to women? Hello and welcome to my podcast, the Adam Riley Podcast, where I'll be interviewing experts and interesting people from around the world with the goal of helping men, including myself, thrive in the modern world of dating, sex, and relationships. Make sure to subscribe and let's go. And today with me I have Hans Comyn. Hans has dedicated a great part of his life to understanding women and to understanding relationships and to romance and adventure. Hans is the author of The Way of a Seducer, a code of honor in the land of women.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's now called The Way of a Seducer, a code of honor to a lost art. So it has a different cover. It has a different title. This is one of the originals that you have.
I've got like a collector's item here.
Yes.
That's cool. So yeah, welcome Hans to the show. I'm very honored to have you here. Thank you for being here with me today.
I'm very happy and excited to be here.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so my first question to you, related to the general theme of this podcast is, do you love women?
Yes, good first question. Yeah, I think it's automatic that one would say yes, but in closer inspection, there's stories around it. I remember, like, I love women. I love girls when I was younger, and I love women. But I remember when I got into this, it was because an elder, Zan, known as the world's greatest seducer, he was once called, gave me a call to adventure, basically to roam the earth and in the beginning chase women and talk about it, And that man, what stood out for me, Zan, was his love for women, And I never thought I had issues with women. Looking back, I was even worse before, but I didn't think so. But in this man, I saw an incredible love for women. And I was puzzled by it. I was puzzled by like how deep that ran and how intricate that love was. And I remember deciding I'm going to explore my love for women. I'm going to practice my love for women. I'm going to expand my love for women and see where it takes me. So, do I love women? Yes, both as a very deep feeling and a lifelong practice. Yeah, I love women.
That's very interesting. And yeah, obviously, well, maybe not for everybody, but this concept of love for women, and even this podcast is inspired by this idea from Zen Perion, the Amorati, men who love women. And it's interesting because what you're saying is, okay, yeah, when we hear that, well, when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, I love women,
Yes.
Like I know I desire women.
Yes.
And it kind of lights up something in me, but you're saying it's a practice.
Yes.
Like, that's an interesting thing. So one is to say, yeah, I love it. It's kind of like maybe superficial.
Yes.
But what is a practice
Yes.
of loving women to you?
Yeah. Well, you said it right. There's a desire one, and that's a great basis, And we could think that that's love for women, and it is in a way. That's, I would say, the feeling that's innate, that just is almost like a gift to us, But then there's the practice, In Dutch, there's a book called Liefde is een werkwoord. It's love is a practice, love is a verb, and I know that Esther Perel uses that, but it's an old book because she's also Belgian, and I know it because I remember my parents having that book. But it is also a practice, and to me, the practice takes many-fold. It takes many ways that you could practice love for women, and one of the main ways I've been practicing practicing my love for women is seduction. You know, to seduce, and seduction not just as a what people may think as a tactic to get from the other what we covertly desire, but seduction as a stand for and a seeking of beauty, or the creation of beauty with every encounter. You know, we seek to create beauty with every encounter. And so when I'm with a woman, the practice of loving is that also, is to seek to create beauty in that, a lasting impression, a beautiful encounter, a fantastic memory, a never-ending relationship, a deepening of the intimacy. And so seduction is very much a great way for me to practice love, you know, and that's one of the main ways for me to do that. Another way would be, for example, to wonder when a woman enters your life, who can I be for her? Who can I be for this woman? So instead of, does she like me? Does she like me? What can I do for her to like me? And then instead of, do I like her? Is that a good girl for me? Like checking with your desire, to say, you know, who can I be for this woman? What can I be in her life? Who can I be for her? It's a great practice. You know, if you were to go into a relationship or even an encounter, you know, and say, who can I be for this woman? It will change the whole way you have the interaction, the whole way you have the encounter. Dennis, who's here in the finca with us, he said a great question the other day. He said, what if I would go into every date thinking that she is, or assuming that she's the woman of my life? How will I show up? What a great practice, you know? What a great way to show up in the date, you know? So, yeah. There's the feeling and there's the practice. And the practice can take on many forms, you know, how you discuss, who you are for this woman, seducing your woman, you know. Many ways to practice it.
I love that. And I've heard that from you before, that love is a verb.
Yeah.
It's something you do. So one thing is to say, yes, I love women, that's nice, but how do you show up
Yes.
with women?
Yes.
And you talked about showing up fully.
Yes.
And you know, in Dennis's example, just showing up with everything.
Yes.
And
everything you got.
Everything you've got and not holding back.
Yes.
That's, you could say, is a very powerful way of loving.
Fully committed and in full creation mode. Like, and maybe I should stress that even more, you know, because the commitment we can understand in a traditional way, but like fully in creating mode, meaning not like, I want to see how it goes, and I want to see how I feel with her, you know. No, like, how am I going to show up, you know? 100% there. I'm giving everything I got, and I'm fully taking responsibility for the creator in me and the creative power I have. I can make this encounter into something that she will remember forever, you know. I can make this relationship into the best thing that she ever had. And so, yeah, fully committed and in full creator's mode. Yeah.
Yeah, I love there's something that I've, you know, taken from you is creating, like showing up and with a creator mentality. What can I create here?
Yes.
What are we creating together? And even like, I've heard you talk about it in this idea of seduction and the dance of seduction. It's something that you're co-creating
Yes.
together.
Yes.
It's about creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, the dance is a great metaphor. And it's certainly, I stress it so much because I've realized that was my process, you know. Thinking that it's a process of taking more and more responsibility, taking towards 100% responsibility to create the relationship that you want, to create the world you want to live in, you know, and take that responsibility. And it's a very powerful way to show up. It's very liberating because you no longer have to react. You no longer have to suffer because of your reactions. It comes with a lot of responsibility, you know. If you're the one to create. You're the one to create. And so yeah, it's it's definitely been my journey to accept that I'm a creator, you know, and not shy away in the shadows and be a victim or be reactive, you know. Always creating, always be creating. It's the ABC of relationships, you know. Always be creating.
Always be creating, and I love that. Well, it's really interesting that you connect responsibility with it, because if you are taking that responsibility, basically you are taking responsibility for whatever the situation is.
Yes.
You're not putting it on everyone else. You take responsibility
Yes.
and create.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, not at all the other. Like they always say, it needs two, but to change your relationship around, it needs one. It needs one creator, and that's it's a shocking and very empowering and scary thought also. You know, it does depend on me. I could change it around. You know, so yes.
Beautiful. I would like to ask you, getting onto our topic of that we love, which is women.
Yes.
What's something true about women that most men are ignorant about and should know?
Whoa. There's so much I could answer that. But I have an incredible reservation about it too. And I'll tell you why first. I'm not going to not answer it. But this is so hard to articulate because not for the truth of it, but the acceptance of it. By that I mean there are some qualities, there's some truths about women, relationships, seduction that do not endure being brought into the open. They're very true, but once you're brought into the open, they evaporate. They evaporate and it becomes very hard to discuss it. You cannot discuss it. You cannot discuss it, even though both persons know the truth of it. It's like this. It's like this. I'll try to give you a glimpse of what I'm talking about, because all I can really do is to allude to it for you or the listener to go, oh, okay, of course, you know. And we can't point at it. We can't bring it in the open. But for example, when you're with a woman, you say you've been on a date or a third date or a fifth date, it's been great, and you're driving, she's coming in the car. No, you're driving her home, so to speak, and she lives alone. And she would say to you in the car, would you want to come up for a cup of coffee, right? Instantly, you would know there's more than just a coffee. Am I correct?
Of course.
Right. You both know there's more than just a coffee, and yet, well, maybe that's a wrong example, you know. Imagine it's at your home. You say to her, would you come up for a cup of coffee? You both know what's going on, and she could say easily yes to that. It would be a lot harder if you were to say to her, would you like to come up and have sex? It's the same thing. You know that's what it means. And yet, if you were to say that, she would almost be obligated, being the woman that she is, and the history of women being judged for the same things men are celebrated for, she would have to say no, you know, because of the bluntness, because it is out in the open, you know. It's like when Harry met Sally, they're good friends, and he says at one point, like, let's have something together. I don't know what he says exactly, you know, and they both know there's a tension there, and they like each other, and it's going that way, but they have the freedom to be willfully ignorant about it and just continue to be friends, you know. When he says that, she says, "What do you say?" And he goes, "Forget about it. I didn't say it." And she says, "It's out there. I can't." Now she can no longer act as if they're just friends. Like, she knows now that he knows that she knows, you know. Alan Pinker has a great video about this, about language. It's in this realm that there are a lot of truths about seduction, about women, that don't endure, that don't sustain under when you shine a light on them. Meaning, you talk about it instantly, people will go, no, no, no. But this is, you know. I'm writing a book about this. I'll say it this way. I'm writing a book about this, and it is very close to your title. It is everything. It's a diary of a seducer, and it's everything I know to be true about women but cannot share. And my idea to go about it is to bring it out when I die, or just after I die, you know, and just let people deal with it, you know. Because I know there's many things, I know a lot of truths about women that I can only act accordingly. I can only act with the knowledge. I can't speak about it, you know. I cannot share it with people because they will disagree, you know. They will say no, or that's not right. You can't say that, you know. It's not politically correct.
Too controversial.
It's too controversial, yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to hint upon something that opens up this whole thing, that people will go, oh, okay, you know, like just say, let's say this, and isn't it funny that at the same time that Me Too was rampant, you know, that at the same time 50 Shades of Grey was a bestseller, you know?
Okay.
At the same time.
Right. Wow.
So, what does that say? You know, it's to me that says a lot. You know, but to put words around it is very risque.
Yes.
I don't know if I answered your question.
That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
The last one.
Or if I'm not wanting to avoid it.
Yeah.
This issue is what I'm trying to talk about, to allude to hint upon, because talking about it in an academic sense is not the best way. It's a very masculine way of talking about it.
Yes.
And it destroys a lot. It destroys a lot of the beauty in the name of truth, you know?
Yeah, I would like to actually bring that up because we've talked about this before, and I think it's really interesting. Also, in me creating this podcast, it was something for me to think about. That, like, while I do want to, basically, the idea here is to help men who love women have better experiences with meeting, dating, sex relationships, and I love to uncover truth and find real truth, but at the same time, what I don't want to do is destroy the mystery of women.
And not only this, but also destroy your opportunity of getting along. Like, you know, this podcast, Fresh and Fit, which has a very similar thing, you know, but it's ugly. It really is ugly, because he's just hitting the women over the head with the truth, you know, and men will go, and it's true, you know, and women will go or protest, you know, or like, and what's lost in that, it's a war, you know, and who's going to win, and it looks like the man is winning, but in the end, the men and women are not coming together in this, you know, like the best a woman can hope for after this thing is be a victim, you know, or being. And that's not what really matters, you know. If beauty matters, at least if beauty matters next to truth, you know, then your power to seduce, it matters. You know, your power to seduce, your way of talking with each other, your way to find a way to get along. You know, I would like to see, you know, the same input that we talk about this truth, and that everyone who's involved, everyone who's concerned, can leave this conversation about the truth about women with their heads up high. Everyone can leave that conversation feeling powerful and not being diminished, not being exposed, not being clubbed over the head, you know. And when you look at that podcast, Fresh and Fit, I'm like, yeah, of course, you know, you're right, you know, you're right, and you're destroying, you know, the beautiful interaction between the masculine and the feminine in the name of truth, because you're not paying attention to the harmony of it. You're not paying attention to the getting along of it. You're not paying attention to the common goal that we have, which is to get along and grow in intimacy, grow in understanding, grow, you know. It's at the cost of those women, you know. So it's like making comedy is like being funny at the cost of some people, you know.
Yeah.
Isn't there a greater way? You still make comedy and nobody pays for it, you know.
It's fascinating the you know, that hard truth can, well, and what I'm feeling is like it can be in a way the death of beauty. Like I'm
Yes.
thinking of killing you know, something sweet and innocent, you know, like
People have killed throughout history. People have killed each other in the name of truth. It's going on now. It's going on now. That's why I send you that quote by Nietzsche. You know, his truth is a metaphor. It's a conglomerate of you know, people trying to impose, and it's devoid of all its sensuous power, you know. And I'm an academic. I'm schooled in philosophy. I'm schooled in university, so I know that side, you know. But I've realized in my life that, you know, truth matters. You know, my truth matters. Your truth matters. Our truth matters. But beauty matters too. You know, getting along matters too. Getting to know each other better matters too. You know, and that's been a big shift to me. And I think that is, you know, that is practicing love. That is seduction. You know, finding a way to celebrate our differences and get along anyway. You know, understanding each other better and finding a way to live together, to love together. You know, that's a whole different ambition, I would say.
yeah. Yeah, man.
Yes. I am getting very philosophical, but yeah, that's my inclination, I guess. But
yeah, but it's important, and I love to dive into the meaning of words, you know, and truth. What is truth? And I guess there's like the this kind of academic truth of people say, okay, this is true, this is true, this is true. And then there's what I kind of love is the search of truth, in the sense of you're searching. Mm-hmm. You're not necessarily finding, but you're digging deeper. Uh-huh. And it's the pursuit itself.
Yes.
That that you want to know, you're curious.
Yes.
And that I think there can maybe be some beauty in that.
I'm 100%. If you're talking about digging deeper, I love it. The trouble I have with truth is it is defined, and it sounds so much like an end goal, you know.
Yeah.
It sounds so much like a definitive thing. And William Burroughs said it, you know. There's no truth that is not human made. Truth is a completely human concept, you know. And we like to act as if we discover it. But truth is a human concept, and truth is made. When I did philosophy with Latour, he would say les faits sont faits, meaning the facts are fabricated. But in French it's les faits sont faits. The facts are made. The facts are fabricated. There is a social aspect to every truth. It you know, like it's what Nietzsche is referring to, is what we just get along about something, and we accept, oh, this is it, you know. We get along about something and say, and we call it truth.
You agree?
And, yeah, you agree, basically. And then it starts taking this life outside of us. We like that, you know, because then, you know, that becomes a very powerful weapon. It's not me, it's the truth.
Right. Yeah, it
So-
becomes weaponized. I want to bring this idea of truth back to women.
Yes.
And I want to ask you, do you think it's possible for a man to fully understand a woman or women in general? Talking about the truth about women.
Yeah. No. People ask me sometimes, you know, do you know women now? Do you understand women now? And I say no. I just found ways to handle them, to deal with them. But understand is a whole, yeah. So no,
Yeah.
I would say there is no end goal in that.
So let go of trying to figure everything out, but learn how to navigate.
I like what you said. Delve deeper.
Yeah.
You know, intimacy is a real, like, it's an ever expanding. It's not like this is one of the biggest insights I've had. You know, I used to think that I would run out of, like, I would know the person and then I would get bored, you know. And now what I see is it's infinite, and when you pay attention in that way, it's an ever expanding way of getting to know the other. Like, I know now in my relationship, I will not get bored. I'm not going to get bored. It may end because of something happens, but I won't get bored. I'll not get bored because it's impossible to know everything about that person. You know, it's not that person is not a finite set of things to know. You know, that person is evolving, and you can go, like you say, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and it expands. You know, it's yeah. It's a huge realization for me that also helped me shift from being a womanizer in the past to, yeah, I could totally see it with my partner now that I will not get bored. You know, I can go on and on and on. So
That's interesting. Do you feel like the kind of womanizer man? I mean, I don't. Yeah, like I'm sure there's value in men exploring, but do you think that there may be some element of not realizing the value of the depth that's available in a
yeah,
in a
it's
relationship?
hard when I look at my own journey. I would say it's so important that a man has to be shaped. A man must be shaped by experience, which means you could talk about things, but you gotta experience them. And 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 the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. You gotta go through it, you know. And I'm convinced that the point I'm at right now, that my past in exploring this and yielding to that temptation has been not just instrumental but essential to that, coming at that point where I go, of course, you know, like, it's not that, it's when you, like Federico or mutual friends, and when you pay attention, you know, you can look at the same thing and you start seeing completely different things. You know, Alan Proust, I don't know how to say it. He says travel is not necessarily going to all these different places, but travel is also look at the same thing with new eyes, you know? And so look at the same thing with new eyes, pay attention in a different way. And but that doesn't come, you know, like conceptually, you just you I could not grasp that conceptually. I had to go through the experience I went to.
What is the most seductive quality of a man to women?
self-love. I mean, you could call it also confidence, you know, but confidence sometimes, confidence is like sustained self-love in a way, and backed up by experience also, you know. So I like to say self-love because that's something that ideally you could choose for right here, right now, and it makes a big shift. So yeah, I would say self-love, self-acceptance, self-love.
That's great. Yeah, I working with anxiety,
Yeah.
etc. And you know, most anxiety is based on a lack of self-love.
Yes.
And yeah, the power of loving yourself
Yes.
to build your own self-esteem. Like self-esteem is how much do you love yourself?
Yeah.
And yeah, interestingly enough, we're often taught that that's bad to love yourself too much, right? But the ultimate thing of like how much self-esteem do you
Yes.
have is how much self-love do you have. So how well do you love yourself?
Yes.
That for you is what is the most attractive to women.
Yes. And it's a practice. Love. So it's a practice.
Yeah.
And but what you say is right. Most people, I'll say it very shortly, you know, but most people are raised with parents that put the children in a situation where they have to fight for the love of their parents. They have to like prove themselves to receive the love of their parents. That's what they're taught, you know. And so it's most people then spend their whole life trying to get back to self-love because it's been connected with proving themselves, you know, and they bring it in relationships, you know, like they were fighting for the love of the parents, they're now fighting for the love of a partner, of a woman or a man, you know, and the opposite is when you don't need that, you know, because you have the self-love, and then when you're no longer, ironically, that's when, you know, it's way more attractive and people come into your life, you know. So yeah, self-love.
Self-love. Something came into my mind when you were saying that, as if like, because obviously when you're seeking approval, you're trying to get it from them, which is obviously putting pressure on them to meet your needs. And that maybe somehow when you love yourself enough, it's like, I don't know, I'm thinking of a vacuum, or it somehow like brings energy to you.
Yes.
You become a magnet.
Yes, it's the difference between a salesperson and a marketer. Salesperson is trying to sell themselves, so the other would buy, and the marketer is exuding in a way, you know, is spreading it out and attracts the people. And go back to the first steps, you know, of practicing love is when you come to that third phase, you know, who can you be for the other, you know? You're not longer thinking, you know, does she like me or do I like her? But who can I be, you know? Which is a very giving thing. It's a very giving you love yourself enough, you accept yourself enough that now you can start thinking, what do I have to give? What can I give, you know? Not out of, I want to get something back, but like there's an abundance of love here. Like, what can I share? Who can I be for them?
Beautiful. Yeah, it is the kind of metaphor or analogy of the love tank being empty, therefore you need to get love from outside, or the love tank being full, and therefore you are abundant and able to give.
That's how I see it. It's only when I grow in self-acceptance and self-love that I can start thinking about, you know, what do I got to give? What do I have to give? You know, and
I would like to extend that question and ask. So I'm talking about the most seductive quality. Does that change from being the most important quality from meeting to being in a relationship?
What was it? The most seductive quality?
I asked about the most seductive quality does that change in a relationship?
I would say it's different. You know, I wrote in my book that a woman is attracted to a man for his strength, and say strength, self-love, that confidence, okay? But she loves him for his weaknesses, you know? From that strong, self-loving, self-accepting man to start seeing his vulnerabilities, his weaknesses, his dark side, his intricacies, you know? That's when she really goes from being attracted to really loving that man, you know? So it's just different. I wouldn't say, you know, that's the more seductive quality, because that the power of that, say, weakness is hinged upon, it's coming from a man of strength, you know. The power of his vulnerabilities and the seductive power of his vulnerabilities go hand in hand with his strength and his self-love. It's only because it's a man of strength that when that man shows up in his dark side, in his vulnerabilities, you know, in his weaknesses, that these weaknesses become a seductive quality and not just a reason to walk over him, you know.
That's really interesting. Would you say that the vulnerability, this is something that I've been very interested in, because say neediness, for example, in a relationship would generally be very off-putting, or like that's not the kind of vulnerability that is attractive to her. So, which by that I mean that, you know, needing things from her, and the vulnerability being about her, and fears about her leaving or about her doing this and that, that kind of vulnerability wouldn't be attractive.
Yes,
it would be another kind of vulnerability about something else happening somewhere in his life that she's able to support him.
I would not say another vulnerability, but coming from a different place. Like with my woman, I'm the most romantic guy I know. I'm the most vulnerable, open I know. I could look so needy. I could look so needy, and I've gained that liberty, I would say, because I became first a man of strength. You know, a man of strength gains the liberty to be completely vulnerable, to be completely weak, to be completely needy in a way with women. And that neediness becomes his strength, the reason why she loves him, you know. It is so, but because he's a man of strength. If he wasn't a man of strength, it would just be needy, you know.
Can you give me an example of this kind of neediness?
Well, we have a friend, a common friend, Federico, and he's a former gigolo, right? And a sexual healer. And he talks about worshiping women, right? Like, it's religious almost. At the altar of romance, he's like, she's my goddess, and she is my goddess. He's in a long-term relationship. The way he speaks about it is a complete adoration and almost like a surrender to the goddess that she is. But I can see it works 100%, but what he's not seeing and not articulating well enough, and that's my role in it, is that this works because he's a man of strength. He is a man who has self-love. He is a man who could say no. He is a man who has border control. He is a man who does the things for his own reasons, not just for her. And because he is that kind of man, he gained the liberty to be that man of that's so romantic, that's just worshiping, because he doesn't risk to lose himself in that, you know. He is that man of strength and gained that liberty to be completely needy and defenseless, you know. And if the untrained eye could look at it and think, well, that's a needy man.
Okay, this is really interesting. Firstly, you said defenseless, which is a really interesting word to put with vulnerability, because that's kind of what it is. You're opening yourself up.
Yes.
Like when people say to make yourself vulnerable, you know, it's like opening up.
Yes.
And you're putting down your defenses.
Yes.
So really vulnerability is that. But what I can see is, like, just from my understanding of neediness and what you're talking about, is that the same action can look, it can be the same action, but it can be done from a needy place.
Yes.
Or it can be done from a not needy place.
Yes.
Meaning, is it fear-based?
Yeah.
Or is it desire-based?
Exact. Or love-based. Yes.
Or love-based? So
100%.
that worship that he has is not fear-based. It's not a fear of losing
Yes.
her. It's a complete worship.
Is he choosing that, or can he not help himself from? You know,
Yeah.
like a neediness is almost like you can't help yourself from doing it. You know, when you could choose also to be completely vulnerable, to abandon, to surrender. You know, and yeah, it's the place it comes from. It's the man that you are. It's the man who acts in a certain way.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah, this is really interesting for me because for me, neediness is a kind of anxiety. So it's like something that someone like Federico or yourself around these topics have actually cleared from their system so they can do the same thing
Yes.
without having that fear-based,
Yes.
sticky energy in it.
Yeah. I don't have to worry. In fact, I will go as deep as I can with it. I will try to be as needy as I can, you know, because I will try to be as vulnerable as I can. I'll practice, be as romantic as I possibly can, you know, because I know myself, and this is not going anywhere, you know. So this self-love is the starting point, and therefore now I have the liberty to explore and expand and see where it could take me, you know. And yeah,
This is the practice.
this is the practice.
Beautiful. All right, I would like to ask you something about the work that you're doing now. You're working with entrepreneurs, helping them expand their lifestyle and love style internationally. This is really interesting.
Yes.
What does this mean for you? What is a love style and why are you passionate about this?
Well, 15 years ago, I started traveling to do this work. And yeah, just traveling the world, you know, chasing women at first, you know, and understanding women and understanding relationships, you know. And what I learned is that this I call it the secret realm of seduction, as described in the book, or even, and also the language of women, how women speak, how women, you know, is surprisingly consistent across continents and cultures and countries, you know. But what I have, there is a huge difference. There is a huge difference between, say, the Western world and the rest of the world in how they meet, how they date, how they have relationships. And it's been, to me, when I left the Western world and I came the first time to Romania, you know, and there were these beautiful, feminine women just everywhere. It was just a shock to my system. It really was like, what? And then that these women were welcoming of a man like me, you know. Where I'm from in Belgium, the women are not as beautiful, and they are less welcoming of a man like me. I mean, the main difference I've seen between this is no knock on women, not at all. Like, we're all born into a context, you know, but I've seen the difference in context. And women in the West have way more a sense of entitlement around romance than outside the West. Meaning, they feel, generalizing, they feel that because they're women, they deserve success in romance. And it's the man's job to give it to them. And so a lot of dates in the West look like job interviews, where the guy is applying for the role of boyfriend, and she's taking note, you know, and selecting. Whereas when you go outside the West, the dating is way more a dance, in which, yeah, it is the man's role to go to the dance, the man's role to invite the woman, you know, but it's the woman's role to accept or not. And when she accepts, to dance along, you know. It's the man who hold up the hand, but it's the woman who twirls. And so there's way more a playfulness and a contribution from women's side to seduction when you go outside the West, you know. There's way less a sense of entitlement. And I've been for me, that's been heartbreaking and so welcoming. And I've seen it in Romania, and I've seen it in Colombia, and I've seen it in Brazil, and I've seen it in Thailand, and I've seen it in Japan, and I've seen it in Kenya, basically everywhere outside the West. And so when you're a Western entrepreneur, you know, it's, how would I say it is best? When you look on a global scale, there's great matches out there between men and women, you know. And a Western entrepreneur and a Western woman is not one of those matches. It's not a good match. They're not getting along, you know. But that same Western man, that same Western entrepreneur, when he goes abroad and he brings his caring, masculine nature, and he goes to Eastern Europe, he goes to Latin America, he goes to Africa, he goes to Asia, he'll be met with a beauty and a femininity that's a way better match than most of those Western men are used to back home. And so, you know, you got these Western entrepreneurs who fought their battles, you know, who are successful in what they do, you know, and but they don't know. They don't know about dating abroad, you know, because there's a stigma on it, and when they do, they think they use traditional methods like online dating or paying for things, when that usually ends bad. That's not the way to find like the real gems and the real sweethearts and the real feminine, beautiful, kind-hearted women, you know. So the men that are committed to that, to go and expand their lifestyle and their love style internationally, I have a wisdom around that, because that's what I've been doing for the past almost 15 years, you know. So I help these guys out to go past a pain for things, pain for romance, and that goes past online dating, so they can really find sweethearts. Like, I mean, my life partner is a beautiful, young, kind Latina woman, you know. And so I'm helping them with that.
Incredible. I want to pick up on one point there, which is you talk about paying for it, and I know from talking paying for women, and I know from talking to you that you're not just talking about prostitution.
Yes.
You're also talking about like paying, like you going money first.
That's
you talk
what it is,
about
yeah.
it, going money first.
Yeah, we're like Western. Like we don't date internationally. We don't really go abroad. We don't even travel. You know, we do tourism at best. You know, but when we do go, we go with our Western ways, and certainly entrepreneurs. You know, we're very tempted to go money first. We buy our way into it. You know, and everywhere in the world, I say this to men: if money's the only thing you got, then money's the only thing she wants. It's like the inverse. You could say to women, if pussy is the only thing you got, and pussy is the only thing I want, you know. But we would want nothing more, that there's a personality there, there's ambition there, there's vision there. You know? Same with women. If money's the only thing you got, then money's the only thing she wants. But if you got all the other things, you know, she wants that. You know, so if you go money first into the world, you'll never get to see what people get to see when they go connection first. Go connection first. Go relationship first. When you meet someone and you ask yourself, who can I be for this person? You know, like you invest in that connection, in that relationship, then doors are gonna open for you that no tourist ever gets to see. You know, that no expat ever gets to see, that not even digital nomads gets to see, because they would go, and if they go, money first. You know, if you go connection first, the world is like doors open like you have no idea. You know, so that's what I talk about when I say, don't go money first, go connection first, go relationship first.
That's a great takeaway. Mm-hmm. That's a great takeaway. I think, you know, from traveling the world for 18 years or so, and just the difference of, and even for people back home, you know, it's like going about your life,
yes.
As you said, kind of with the travel, can just be looking at the same thing differently.
Yes.
Going about your life, relationship first instead of, you know, like all these situations that are transactional, like that's a person.
Yeah. Investing in your relationship has the highest return on investment. It's the number one thing. Like they did a study in Harvard, 75 years I told you about, to find out what makes us happy and healthy. Relationships, you know, nothing comes even close. Not nutrition, not genes, not the culture we're born in, not exercise. Relationships. Like if you have great relationships, it will not only improve your happiness, which you can, but your health. You will live longer and better if your relationships are good. So it's worth it to at least invest in it. You know, invest all the time, money, and energy you can in your relationships instead of other things. You know, like to me, it has been my number one ambition. You know, my number one focus and investment. My relationships with my friends, with my allies, with my woman, with my family, with myself. You know, it's the return on investment is huge, and so it's worth it.
That's fascinating. And when you're talking about, so the number one, it's the number one thing that indicates our happiness and our experience.
And our health.
And our health.
Yes.
And so to invest in it, when you say invest, you're not talking about money, you're talking about time and energy.
I'm talking also money. Yeah,
and money.
You could contribute to that. It's not the same as saying I go money first, I'm paying for things. But invest money too.
Invest, yes.
Like invest money in it too. You know, whatever that means. You could take courses, you could, you know, buy presents, whatever, you know, whatever that is.
Yes.
But invest in it. You
invest
know,
in this, make this a priority.
Yes.
Make relationships. And this kind of ties in with the last thing that I want to kind of ask, I guess, or bring up, because you say something that I've only heard you say, which I really love, because I kind of believe in the same concepts around relationships and the importance. You say that relationships are our last frontier.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
It's like we're looking out for space, and you know, but I say relationships are our last frontier, and it's very close to home, because I'm convinced that if we figure out relationships, we're going to figure out everything. If relationships have such a high return on investment, and if it's the number one thing that makes us happy and healthy, you know, why would we not invest more time, energy in it towards understanding it more? Because at the same time, it's so important. And on the other side, we're crippled at best in the way we relate. Like we have no real understanding about it. We're not educated in it. Our parents don't do anything, don't tell us anything. The school is not talking about it. It's kind of like we have this romantic ideal, we'll find the right person and live happily ever after, you know? I mean, it is developing now, you know, but we're still in a very initial stage of exploring what it means to relate well to one another, what it means to love, what it means to get along, what it means to seduce, what it means to fight gracefully. We're in a very initial stage. It's exciting, you know, it's exciting. It's like, I always talk about a reconnaissance team, because I feel really it's like, it's uncharted territory. It really is still, and it's our last frontier, because when we're going to figure this out, and we will, because we're so obsessed with it, you know, like we keep going at it, you know, and so we will figure it out. When we figure out a way to relate one another, we're going to figure out solutions to all the world's problems. I 100% believe that famine, natural disasters, war, that the source of them is a crippled way of relating one another, and that the solution is finding ways to relate well to one another, finding ways to celebrate our differences and get along anyway. Get along anyway. That's the most important. Like, it's not, oh, we're going to see we're all the same, then we will get along. No. We are different. We're celebrating differences. You're from a different culture. Great. You're a different race. Great. You're a sex. Great. We celebrate the differences and we get along anyway. You know, when we do that, you know, we're going to have great relationships. We're going to have great community, and all of world's problems will be solved through better ways of communicating, better ways of relating. I have no doubt about that. So that's why I call it the last frontier.
Awesome. Thank you. I mean, it's incredible. We've just solved all the world's problems. That's it. Relationships.
Yes.
But I totally agree.
Yeah.
I mean, and I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's, I think I believe it. And, you know, with my work with anxiety, the number one relationship is with yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Healing that
Yes.
relationship
Yes.
builds the self-esteem, makes you more attractive to women.
Yes.
Or, you know, it's the most seductive quality to women is your own self-esteem. So your own relationship starts there. And the interesting thing is that I see is that the same things that work inside work outside.
Yes.
And even this podcast, you know, I do this because I love women. I do this because I want men and women to have better relations.
Yes.
But the context of it is, you know, for men who love women.
Yes.
And interviewing mostly women
Yes.
who love men.
Yes.
Because I want to start on that
Yes.
layer and approach
Yes.
this topic from
Yes.
this. Yeah, we're different.
But also from that commitment. If love is a practice, then loving women is a commitment, you know? It's like I initially said when I met Zan, you know, I'm gonna love women more. I'm gonna see how I can expand it, where it can take me. I'm committed to this. So I think it's a great context, you know, that you talk with women who love men and men who love women, who say we're committed to this. We're gonna love and we're gonna see where it takes us, and find a way through, you know. So
Yeah, we may not always like each other. We might
Yes.
not always get along. We might,
Yes.
you know, get frustrated and get triggered and,
Yes.
you know, and some bad things. But if it's within this context
Yes.
of love
Yes.
towards the other, it's like, it's that commitment to figuring it out.
Yes.
Totally.
You'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. The only thing you need in a relationship is two people who say, I'm committed to this. No matter what, I'm not going anywhere. You'll find a way. You will find a way.
Awesome. We find a way. Thank you, Hans.
Yes,
Thank
my
you
pleasure.
so much for being here. This has been an incredible conversation.
Yes.
Both part one and part two. Yeah, there's so much good stuff in here. Thank you, the audience, for listening. Thanks for showing up and supporting this new project. And follow, subscribe wherever you see this. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.